You're very welcome to the two-man wall, but the two-man wall this week has an upstart in the middle, and he's only a comedian, a presenter, and a Crystal Palace fan who obviously don't have a manager at the moment. Jim Daly. I mean, this is by our standards. Our standards are high. To get you on the show, I mean, this is big stuff.
Thank you. I think Upstart in the Middle is a good name for my next Edinburgh show, actually. I think as titles go. So thank you very much. That's probably the nicest way I've ever been introduced onto a podcast. So it's downhill from here.
He's a beautiful man, Adam, with a beautiful microphone.
Yeah, he's come prepared. That's what we appreciate, really, isn't it? He's bringing his own microphone. You can come again, Jim, for sure.
You know, they say a lot about Jim Daly, but what they can't say is he doesn't make an effort.
Yeah. And the third person already referenced is a beautiful start as well. Jim, how have you enjoyed the tournament so far?
Do you know what? I am really enjoying this tournament. I am having a really good time. I should say straight off the bat, I'm half Irish, half English. So I do lean towards Ireland if they ever play each other. So I find when I follow England or watch England, I don't get involved in the drama. I'll be totally honest. I'm happy for them to do well. If they don't, I'm fine. The Scotland game the other day, I wasn't fussed. It was a 0-0 draw. Everyone else was losing their heads. So in terms of patriotism, I'm sort of on the outside, really. But in terms of the tournament in general, I don't know if it's because fans are back in the stadium and we've had a year of watching at home with no fans. There's just something about this tournament that is really enjoyable. I don't know if it's because of the Ericsson incident that's put things in perspective and that's made people realize, you know what, actually none of this really matters. Let's just enjoy the football. But also some of the teams are really, really going for it and playing some good football. So I'm having a lovely time, guys, to be totally honest.
I would agree with all the above.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's just because tournament football, there's something familiar about it. It feels very familiar.
It brings us back to something we recognize, that we remember and love.
Yes, whereas the Premier League's been very alien, hasn't it, the last 12, 18 months. So it's kind of, it brings back the memories of the old tournament, and it gets you thinking, you know, the amount of Euro 96 comparisons already is astonishing.
Yeah, I've seen Gazza's goal against Scotland more times than actually in Euro 96. I think it is well imprinted on my brain now. But do you guys think that there's nostalgia in it as well? Do you think, because I've found the last few tournaments before this not as, 2018 was okay, but not as enjoyable. There's something about this one that is, I wonder if it's because when you're younger and you watch football, that added nostalgia. It's never going to be as good as when you were a kid.
Definitely that. And the fact that you referenced Euro 96, like I was even talking to my brother about this during the week. Ireland weren't there, but that's the tournament that we really remember in terms of the Euros, and Scotland were there. We remember the game, the Gaza game, obviously remember so much about the tournament, Poborski and all that. And it's ultimate nostalgia, because it's like that football experience. It's like Santa Claus. You'll never get that experience back. You're just kind of trying to enjoy it as much as you can, but you'll never be enjoying it as much as you did when you had your whole life ahead of you as a 12-year-old.
Indeed, yeah. And much like Santa Claus, England making the final doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, this is it. Well, who does make the final in your view, Adam Russell, and what have you made of it so far? France 7-2, my ideas of the winner. England 6-1, Italy 6-1, Germany 7-1, Spain 7. Spain obviously come a good against Slovakia. Belgium 9-1 now on the back of like some pretty bad stuff in the draw. What are your thoughts at the moment?
Well, it kind of feels like it's as it was almost before the start of the tournament in terms of who is looking likely to win the tournament. Obviously, France were strong 9-2 favourites before the tournament started. And I think, you know, despite a bit of a scare against the Hungarians and obviously a draw on Wednesday night, it feels like they're still waiting to get out of second gear, and they are certainly the strongest side in the tournament. And I think nothing's changed in that regard. In terms of who's made an impression from the market, at least, it's Italy. They're in from 8-1 before the tournament started, all the way into 11-2 second favourites now, which I think is a really short price for a team with not a great deal of tournament experience, especially at the sharp end of the tournament. But again, I think it's now 11. They've won 11 games in a row without conceding a goal, and that's the kind of form that you really need to kind of push on in these tournaments. So yeah, the market certainly seems to be going with Italy, and also to a certain extent with the Germans. It's only a slight move.
You can never, ever, 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 ever write off the Germans.
Never. And especially, I think the draw, as much as England fans are getting into the spirit of, well, if we can get past Germany, the draw kind of opens up to us, and we get the winner of Sweden, Ukraine, and then potentially a semi-final with either Wales or Denmark. And, the Germans will be looking at that the exact same way, as we will. If they can get past us, the draw opens up for them. And with the squad that they've got, like you say, Johnny, you definitely can't count the Germans out.
And Jim, you'll remember Euro 92 when Denmark obviously shouldn't even have been in the tournament, but ended up winning it. And imagine if they were to win this tournament, they're 18-1. It looks next to impossible that they'd actually make the last stages. But imagine the fairy tale, a Danish fairy tale involving Eriksson and so forth, if they were to win it.
I'm really glad you came to me with that, because I actually have a theory, and my theory is that Denmark are going to make at least the semis, possibly the final.
Why so?
Because we love a narrative around football. You mentioned Euro 92 there, but so often, maybe less so in tournaments, but in football in general, something happens and it creates a narrative. And the Eriksson incident, thankfully, best case scenario happened as a result of that. But it's made Denmark everyone's second favourite team. Everyone's going to be cheering them on against Wales. And I just got a funny feeling these things happen in football sometimes. So think of the morale in that squad at the moment. They are pulling for each other. In their final group game, they were absolutely fantastic. And sometimes that's all you need, isn't it, to go through to the next stages? They've got some good players in there as well. So I don't know. I've just got a feeling. Having said that, I do have a feeling about my fantasy football team, and that often doesn't work either. So I wouldn't go off the back of my feelings, guys. I wouldn't put money on the back of it. But I just got a feeling about Denmark. Yeah. And at those odds as well, maybe.
It is interesting in terms of a moral quagmire, because, I think people on these islands are generally hopeful that Wales do well in this tournament. They're a likeable team, but then they're playing Denmark, and kind of everyone wants Denmark to do well.
I'd looking at the market though, Denmark 18-1 at the minute. I'd want more money than 18s to be, to have Denmark down to win the tournament at this stage. Even despite the narrative, as Jim said, I'd want a bigger price than that. I think a tough one for there. I think it'll be a tough game against Wales, don't get me wrong, but I think, the potential of playing Netherlands or the Czech Republic in the following round could be maybe one step too far for that. I think the Czechs have shown that they're a decent side as well. So, maybe set too far, but it'd certainly be a great story, wouldn't it, to see them get to even a semi-final? Would be a great story from the Dane.
Before we get to England and Germany and Belgium, Portugal, the match minutes, I seem to be going to you, Jim, every time I'm trying to, talk about somebody who's old or something that happened a long time ago, because I think you and I are maybe of a more kind of comparable age than Adam Russell. But what about Ronaldo? He's 8-11 at this stage, 8-11 to be top scorer. The man just keeps doing it.
I mean, I love Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he's an absolute specimen, a fantastic footballer. He gives me hope, actually. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 37 years old. And
38.
Ronaldo is what, 34, 35 now?
No, he's 30. Yeah. Well, he's 36, I think, is he?
36. No. Wow.
What is he?
He's 34. I'll Google it now, but I'm pretty sure he's 34.
He does give me hope a little bit. I play for a vets team out
36, here. 1985. Oh, my.
I was 84. There you go. So I'm basically the same age as Cristiano Ronaldo, which when you look at his six-pack is actually really, really depressing. But he does.
You can get a six-pack, Jim. You actually can. You can achieve a six-pack.
The thing is, I won't.
Right.
That's the difference there. Yeah. I think Ronaldo's great. His drive is unbelievable, and to be honest, you wouldn't bet against him being top scorer in this tournament. To be honest, I mean, the way he drags that Portugal team is unbelievable. I do wonder actually a little bit if his shadow casts too long over that Portugal team at times, and if there's a game where he doesn't turn up in. I mean, they should have enough quality, really, with Bruno Fernandes and the likes in their team. But I wonder if actually he's almost too big a star. But when he's on it, he's absolutely fantastic. I did make an error. So I've been doing my stand-up show in Brighton the last 2 nights, and I was going to I had Ronaldo in my fantasy team at the start of the tournament, and I took him out for Harry Kane. I mean, that's one of the biggest errors anyone's ever made.
Give you good material, if nothing else.
Unbelievable. And then I was going to bring most of the show is about actually how bad I am at fantasy football. It's a very niche show. And then I was going to bring him in for the final group stage, and I was going to bring in Havertz for Germany as well. And I forgot, because I'd actually for some reason booked my show over the exact time, 8 p.m. Wednesday 23rd, as those games are happening. And in the room was great. It was Caxton Arms in Brighton. The room above, there was 40 Hungarians watching their group game with Germany. So
they weren't doing the thunderclap thing up there as well, were they?
They weren't far off, mate. 15 minutes into the show, the ceiling started shaking after they took the. It felt like they were going to join us for the rest of the show. Honestly, I had to stop the show and just like talk about, oh, well done, Hungary, good for them, because the audience couldn't even hear me. So second half, I actually joined the game, watched it with them. It was an unbelievable atmosphere. But yeah, anyway, Ronaldo, you wouldn't bet against him. He just keeps going and going.
I'm not sure you even can really bet against him anymore. Looking at obviously he's 5 goals already for him. His nearest challenger is Lukaku, and Patrick Schick has also got 3. Wijnaldum has also got 3. But if you're looking at the teams who might go all the way, France, Italy, Belgium, like who's gonna go that distance and have enough opportunity to surpass him? Probably only Lukaku. Maybe if Benzema goes on a run. Benzema's 12-1 at the minute. Lukaku's 5-1. But if you were looking for somebody to take Ronaldo on with, you probably have to look at Lukaku. But yeah, still.
But Adam, you know what Benzema is, don't you? Benzema is another narrative, another nice narrative. Back into the team after a long time.
Is it a nice narrative though?
Maybe it's not a nice. Okay, it's not as nice as the Eriksen narrative, but it is a narrative. There is something there, and so yeah.
What we consider a good narrative on the show is a sex tape scandal and a cardiac arrest, and those are the nice narratives the nice narratives we can get behind for this tournament.
Yeah, we are a strangely perverted show, it must be said, and I disassociate myself from everything that Adam said there. But Adam, England v Germany. I mean, what's not to like about this fixture? I backed Germany at halftime the other night. This was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. I opened up a bottle of wine when they equalised because I was humming and hawing about it, and I said, right, be able to enjoy a glass of wine here. By the time I'd uncorked the bottle, they were back 2-1 behind again, came into the room. Then they got to 2-2, and then they didn't want to score. Sané was through, and he just ballooned the ball into the stand. I was like, you're an absolute disgrace. You want England. Will they beat England?
It was great, that last group game, though, wasn't it? I think England were playing all 4 of the teams in that group at one point within about a 5-minute period, and it was just chopping and changing. And that was kind of some of the jeopardy that I think we'd lost with the format for this tournament. So it was nice to get that even in a small dose. I think whoever England had ended up playing, it was going to be a difficult game. Even if it had been the Hungarians, they'd shown that they can compete with the best teams in their group. So, but yeah, how good is it going to be? England, Germany at Wembley. I think from an English perspective, if we can get past Germany, that's when the tournament, the excitement, the Euro 96 fever that we discussed, that's when it's really going to get going. If we can get past the Germans, and that's a big step. England have only had 2 competitive victories over the Germans since 1966, and they haven't had a competitive win over them in 2 decades. So we know it's going to be tough. We know the Germans are a top class side. England 6-4 at the minute, draws 11-5, Germany 9-5. It's penalties, isn't it? I was going to say it now. It's penalties, isn't it?
I would say, Jim, I really have no idea what's going to happen here, because Germany, they've been so in and out, and they weren't impressive at all against Hungary. For a while, it looked like they weren't even going to get through. England's decided to, screw me over by not beating Scotland and cost me an ACA. Other than that, they've actually been okay. What's the daily thought on the matter?
Well, do you know what? It feels a little bit like roles are reversed, because England are playing like old Germany, very solid, dependable, keeping clean sheets, and Germany are playing like old England, all over the place, sometimes good, sometimes bad. So it feels like for the first time in, was it 2001, the last time England beat Germany, that actually the roles are reversed a little bit. Are Germany good at the moment? It feels to me like a sort of transitional team. Like half the team are really old. I don't know if they're.
I think this is the worst German side I've seen in my lifetime, probably.
Well, defensively, a Neuer for the second goal. I mean, how un-German is that as a goalkeeper? I mean, it was so bad. What was he thinking? I literally just opened the wine. I've told this story already, but like the wine was opened as my world unraveled, and Neuer just came out to punch the air. I mean, what was he doing?
Do most of your stories revolve around wine, Johnny?
Yeah.
This is a feature of the show. I'm not really, it's mainly craft beer actually, but anyway, you can draw your own conclusions. That Jim and I are going to set up a wine-related podcast.
But, I don't mind. I'm not a big drinker, but I don't mind a glass of wine. But actually, I had a really embarrassing moment recently because I watched the last England game, the Czech game. I had alcoholless beer.
I've engaged in a bit of that during the last few months.
The good one is that. Not that they want to make this an advert, but the Heineken one is actually really good.
It was that one. It was the one that rhymes with Reineken.
Peroni is grossly Peroni is the superior non-alcoholic beer.
But do you know why I did it? Because at this age, Johnny, you'll know, even a can of beer creates the worst hangover. And I'm a lightweight anyway. So I thought I'll have the buzz of having a beer without the hangover the next morning. Weirdly, I still had a bit of a hangover somehow. I don't know how I did that. But we have to manage, like Ronaldo, we've got to manage ourselves at this age.
Yeah, is in that Simpsons episode, the epic where Homer goes to space. It's like, I don't understand it. That was non-alcoholic champagne, but yet you can still get hungover. Adam Russell, let's call this.
I've called it. I think it's going to be a draw in full time, 11-5. Decent bit of value there anyway. I think for me, it's got penalties written all over it. It has to be, doesn't it? It has to be.
The drama.
Yeah, and I think obviously the way that England have set up in this tournament, they haven't really committed the fullbacks as high and wide as we maybe thought they might do. Obviously had that really solid base of the two centre-backs and two holding midfielders in Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. It wouldn't surprise me if you went to a 5 at the back for this one. It wouldn't surprise me to see Reece James play as a right wing-back and Walker play as a right centre-back. But I think what is going to be an interesting one in this game, the first game in the tournament, that England have had to lead that England haven't had to lead the dance. The 3 games we've played so far, we've had opposition that have sat back and kind of waited for us to land a punch on them, whereas the Germans won't do that. They'll back themselves. They'll lead a lot of the dance themselves. And it could be an opportunity to see how this England side can play on the counter, because I think that's one of the really exciting facets of this team is how much pace we've got and how we can be so quick in transition. So be interesting to see if counter-attacking football plays a role in that. But yeah, I'm going to firmly go draw, and I think we'll see penalties and toss of a coin who wins the penalties, but hopefully England.
Yeah, I think that the tactical stuff is interesting, actually. Jim, briefly.
I'm trying to work out who is the Southgate from '96 in this current squad. Is it Connor Cody, maybe? No, because Southgate played a lot of the games in '96.
I was going to say John Stones, but Stones is way too flamboyant to be a Southgate.
Yeah, I'm thinking who's going to miss the penalty, basically, that hands Germany the win. Maybe Maguire coming back in. I don't know.
Let's hope the players aren't debating this in front of Southgate. I mean, in terms of morale before the game. Who's going to be the Southgate if we go to penalties?
They had the Colombia redemption. That's redemption in 2018. So I totally agree with Adam. Penalties is absolutely nailed on here, and then I guess you see what happens. I'm interested to see what he does in terms of Mason Mount coming back in, because I thought Saka and Grealish were fantastic in the last game, but he loves Mason Mount.
Mount will still have to isolate, I think, until next week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because obviously the whole Gilmore thing, which is another can of worms, I think, is how 2 England players are isolating after coming into contact with a Scotland player, but none of the Scotland
none of the Scotland team want to talk to him. He's just very unpopular.
I'm just going to get my tinfoil hat from over here and put that on, because there's something dodgy on it. But yeah, I don't think Mount will be fit. I think the question for me will be whether Grealish plays or not. Obviously, he did make an impression in the Czechs. If he goes to a 5 at the back, you lose one of those spots in the midfield. So I wonder whether I think it's a straight toss-up, to be honest, between Grealish and Saka for who plays on that left-hand side. And yeah, I think I'd probably go Grealish.
While you're there, Adam, Belgium 7-5, the draw 21-10, rather, Portugal 2-1. These sides have never met in a major tournament before. This should be a cracker. It's not easy to call. Portugal do not look great defensively, but they do have Ronaldo.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. On paper, this should be a really, really good game. I think the weakest point of both sides is defensively. That's the accusation that's certainly been thrown at Belgium is, they've got great players in midfield and up top, but have they got enough defensively? Obviously, Portugal managed to score six goals in the group and were 1 goal away from finishing bottom. So that tells you all you need to know about kind of where their defence is at. Obviously, I think Cancelo has been quite a big miss for them at fullback. I think you've got to be looking at an over goals angle on this one, because I think it's basically guaranteed goals. Over 2.5 goals is 23-20 at the minute. So you're looking at doubling your money on what I see as pretty much a banker. Belgium have scored in 56 of the 58 games that they've had under Roberto Martinez, averaging 3 goals a game. in the process. You would expect them to score. You'd expect De Bruyne to come back into the team and pull strings, as we've seen him do off the bench during the group stages. Lukaku's obviously already got 3 goals already. Ronaldo's on form. We've spoken about him already. He's got 5 goals, as well as all the other players Portugal have got. So I think both teams should score. I'm going over 2.5 goals, and I think Belgium will win in normal time. So that's 7-5 at the minute.
Jim?
I think Belgium will probably win as well. It does feel again like it feels to me like 2 teams that have maybe possibly missed their time in terms of, you look at the squad that both got sort of players aging a little bit, and both teams really dragged by, Belgium have just got De Bruyne and Lukaku, and Portugal Ronaldo. But yeah, I mean, if they all turn up, it could be an absolutely cracking game. I didn't realize they'd scored in all but 2 of their games under Martinez. I mean,
that is bonkers,
unbelievable. So obviously we're expecting goals. I mean, I like Roberto Martinez. I think he's done very well. My lasting memory of him is at that was it Flow Rider concert where he's doing the moves at the back of the stand, which I was a big fan of.
A real footballing impression there as well.
I'd like to see him do that. If they win this game, I want to see him do the Flow Rider dance on the touchline. I think he owes us that.
It's lovely that 2 men in their late 30s, which I think we can call us now, are talking about 2 teams who've rather missed their time as we struggle through life. And
obviously, Portugal is reigning champions. As well. So, and I think I like to say about Martinez. I think he's done a good job at Belgium. I think no Belgian managers won more games at major tournaments, and I think they may have missed the boat, like you say, Jim. But I think if they're not going to miss the boat, I think this is the one. This is the tournament.
Yeah. Adam, your whole life is ahead of you. Make the most of it.
Yeah, I'll try.
Thanks a million for your time, both Adam and Jim. Adam and Jim, we'll have a ring to it.
It's the double act that we didn't know we needed.
It is. Beautiful sound from Jim.
I'll be waiting for the call from you, Jim, for your next Brighton show anyway.
So. Okay, you just stand in the corner and do the Martinez dance while I'm on stage.
Yeah.
And the thunderclap.
Beautiful. Thanks for your time, lads.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.